Hi, I'm Nancy Johnson with Intention to Balance, and welcome to Holistic Living, where we are showing people how to live more naturally with natural options. I am so excited for my special guest today, who is a friend of mine as well. She's a vocalist, a storyteller, a songwriter, so inspirational. She's won so many awards, and I just am so blessed to have her here. So, Patty Peterson.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you very much. That's so much fun to be here and to share this time with you, because I know this is your intention to do a show like this and to touch people's lives with how they can just be a little happier and feel a lot better. So thank you for doing this.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Yeah.
And I just, your story is so inspirational, and I want people to understand and hear, more about some extreme health journeys that you've experienced,
Sure.
but also kind of where you started, and how you got into the whole natural journey. I think that's important for people to hear. You weren't always in the natural realm, but you had a reason to start it, and then kind of how that led on, and then we'll talk about all kinds of other things too.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, as far as how I got into more natural medicine, they simply were calling it alternative medicine at the time. I'm a mom of 4 boys, and my third son had ear infections from, well, let's put it this way. As an infant at 3 months, I brought him on a couple of airline flights to go on a cruise with his dad and me. And while on the ship, I could hear him rubbing his ear at 3 months and a little crackling. So I brought him, and he was cranky. So I brought him into the ship physician, and immediately the physician put him on pink gum medicine, saying he had an ear infection. When really, as a nursing mother, he probably had milk in his eustachian tube. And what led to, this was the beginning of eventually then at 10 months, bringing him home, living on pink gum medicine, liquid antibiotics. He had tubes. As a result of tubes, he had night terrors for 4 years. He never really got well. And my 2 older boys were relatively healthy. If they had strep, they'd get a shot, they were over it. It was a completely different mindset at that time of pediatrics, I feel. So this was like, oh gosh, this pink gum medicine, it tastes good, we can give it to them. And what happened for my son Noah was he ended up basically living on stronger and stronger and stronger antibiotics to not only fight the ear infections he carried, but also eventually his immune system was so suppressed. At 4, he had staph strep pneumonia.
Wow.
Carried the strep for 6 months. He had ear infections the whole time, and they were going to take his tonsils out. He was going to be about 5.5 at this point. And I had somebody talk to me, and it was a pediatrician. I was so grateful. Talk to me a little bit about, changing his diet, and also something called acidophilus. Well, I started studying more and more, and this is already so 30 years ago. And when you would say this to people, they'd look at you like you had 3 heads. Acidophilus? And then the more I studied, I realized that antibiotics wipe out the villi in the intestinal tract, which absorbs your nutrients and absorbs the bad bacteria that comes in through the mouth into the gut. So essentially, my son was kept sick, kept getting sicker, eczema, dandruff, pitted teeth. Now, he's a beautiful child, but what I'm saying is this was really tough.
Yeah.
At age 3 to 5, he finally, I found a chiropractor. We started changing his diet, but finally at age 7, I brought him to a holistic doctor who did chiropractic adjustments. We changed his diet, got him off dairy, and he really taught me more about the nutritional value of things like probiotics, we call them now today,
Right.
Probiotics was acidophilus, bifidus, bulgaricus, and there were so many different parts of it that went to the large intestine, small intestine, and your colon. And that was how he began to heal, by food elimination, and then by antioxidants and acidophilus probiotics. So by 7, He actually had to be in special ed because he was so weak. He was enough deviations below standard level that he had to get pulled out of class when he started regular school, but eventually they came in because he didn't want to be singled out. When children have ear infections, they live in this scope of a world where pain is on the outside, and they have these ear infections, and it's like, they would wince if you'd get near him to give him a kiss. Finally, by 7, it was the worst ear infection he had, and we were out of town. He was with us, went to a hospital, and for some reason, then he began to outgrow them with all of the support that I had learned about. Well, it made me turn into that commercial people will remember, the Mother Nature commercial.
Yes.
It's not nice to fool Mother Nature. In school, they suggested Ritalin, and I said, I just got him off antibiotics. What don't you understand about the word no? We are not doing this. So with meetings, with the teachers, and with working with him and continually improving his health, he matched right up by 7th grade. He no longer needed the help. And what happened in this time frame for him, through his being introverted, his memorization capacity was incredible, almost like people wanted to label him savant.
Right.
And I said, don't do that. But the truth is, he's a brilliant musician. That's where he ended up using all of that energy, going within and becoming a multi-instrumentalist. So his health is good. When he's not feeling well, Mom, what do you think? What do I need to do? But he lives a great, healthy, normal life. He's sweet, he's brilliant, and he's a great musician. So anyway, that's my introduction into it. And my husband started calling me the witch doctor because I was using natural medicine.
Right.
And it really wasn't the catchphrases.
No.
Oh, Nancy, it was really an incredible ride.
Well, and I had a similar journey with my son too, kind of very similar. And they wanted to put him on Ritalin as well.
Oh,
and
boy.
I took the sugar out of his diet, I took the chemicals out of the house, and within 2 weeks he was really a different child. And that was part of my opening, into natural health as well. So very funny, similar journey there. So
well, and I think as moms it changes us because it shows us that there is another way.
Right.
And then you have to find the doctors who work with you. You're an advocate for that child, or eventually yourself, or a parent, and then you work with them. And eventually you have to walk the integrative medicine line. Used to be alternative, homeopathic, allopathic, all these different phrases. But now it's integrative, and you'll see it. It's so believed in that it's actually popping up in hospitals.
Yeah.
Like the Penny George Institute for Health and Healing.
Such a beautiful thing.
Beautiful thing. And people are so interested that it's expanded into other areas of our Twin Cities. And we're not alone. And so this is really great.
I know.
Yeah.
And we're pretty progressive here in Minnesota, which is so thankful.
True.
Like, I know we love Western medicine when it's needed. You break your arm or something like that. But other than that, we love our first line of defense. And we met through doTERRA essential oils, which I'm so grateful for as well. Because we love our oils and all of our modalities for sure.
Well, yes, and love our oils, but I love the supplements. I love the spa products, face products. And I also just think that when we can support ourselves integratively, and we'll get to my other part of my story where, I also have to take a handful of medications every morning. But when I can support my body, my mind, and my soul with integrative medicine, I feel better to go out and touch the world as long as I'm on this planet. And that's the way I want to feel. I want to feel strong.
Yes.
I want to know that I can go to my new medicine chest and have it enhance my life. And my team of doctors also include holistic doctors. To this day, my friend Dr. Desmarais, still my holistic doc and friend, and chiropractor Dr. Fargo. So, I mean, really, it's all by choice. It's up to us.
Yes, and we want to avoid the side effects and addictions and things that come along with some of the other choices these days. So, so I would love for you to share about your journey, because I think it's so important that people hear, partly about being your own, wellness advocate.
Yes.
But kind of how you started, you had symptoms, regarding your heart event, and
Yes.
kind of how that all played out, and why your tagline, which I love,
What,
gift to
oh,
live.
yeah, live your gift.
Live your gift.
Live your
Thank you.
gift.
Yes.
And that, yeah, I mean, that is, I'll get to that, but let me just start. In my late 20s, I went through a breakup of a marriage. And at that point, I had some irregular heartbeats, and those irregular heartbeats were calmed by a drug called a beta blocker. And then after a couple of weeks, it seemed to get back in rhythm and I was fine. But they were watching my mitral valve. They called it mitral valve prolapse. And a lot of women have that. That's how it was diagnosed. But thank God, I started having a series of echocardiograms, which is kind of like for gals, if you think of this having an echo of maybe your baby inside of you. So the jelly and looking at all the heart chambers. And so every few years I would have that just to see how that valve was doing. That was my introduction to antibiotics before dentistry. And I know that, many people have probably had to go that route as well. And then I was pretty darn good, and in my late 40s, I was under a lot of stress again. Fatigue and emotional stress, and doggone it if those irregular heartbeats didn't show back up. So I had another echo, and this particular cardiologist who read it said, oh yeah, we're not worried about that other valve anymore, we're worried about your aortic valve. And so apparently they had said it's leaking, so it's a backwash situation, so the valve does not open and close properly. Our aortic valve looks like a peace sign, so the 3 flaps should close off the blood as it circulates back into your body. So since it didn't do that, there was more going on, but I wasn't aware of it. What I wanted to do, because of my natural lifestyle, I was doing Pilates twice a week, I was really taking care of myself, is find a cardiologist who would work with me to stave it off into the future. That open heart surgery, me, this big singer, having to face open heart surgery. I say big singer because I make a big sound when I sing.
You make a beautiful sound. Yes.
Well, I'm not a dainty singer is what I'm trying to say. So the interesting part about that was I still never really got rid of the irregular heartbeats. And, that in itself creates an anxiety and an insomnia, and then you're worried, and then your blood pressure goes crazy, and it wasn't a fun journey. And so, we didn't have a date in mind to replace that valve. But as I was continuing to live my life and volunteer at school, exactly 13 years ago, February 12th, I volunteered at my son's middle school. I did a Pilates class. I went to a rehearsal with my friend Lori Dawkin. I went home and made dinner. Then I went to a recording session. And my brother Ricky, who was with John Mayer at the time, they were going to all meet up and go out. I said, I know you. I have to get up at 7 in the morning with my kids. You go ahead. Love you, Ricky, but I'm going to start driving home. 10:30 at night. Driving, thank goodness, on our freeways at 10:30 at night in Minneapolis. There was a dagger feeling in my heart. And my son, who was going to join us, was on the phone with me. And I quickly tried to get off the phone with him going, I don't know what that was. It was like the worst muscle twinge pull dagger in my heart that I knew I was in trouble. Listen, I knew I was in trouble. So I quickly get off the phone with him. And at that point, there was an email going around saying, if you think you're having a heart attack, cough really hard, maybe your heart will go back into rhythm. So I tried that as I'm pulling over to the side of the road. And I went, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble, starting to feel lightheaded. I've never fainted in my life. I called 911. I had the operator stay with me till the state trooper got there. They called the ambulance, called my husband, who said, are you sure it's not something you ate? Okay, and that's not a diss on him.
Right.
That's
no.
that's how dismissive we can be. And so I said, no, it's not. I'm in trouble, and the ambulance is here. Just meet me down at Abbott, Minneapolis Heart. So you'll love this. I grabbed my purse and walked to the ambulance, diva that I am. No, nobody's going to help me. But I think that's that survival mode where you have to, where I wanted to be in control of a situation that was scaring the daylights out of me.
I bet.
So the interesting thing is, once I got into the ambulance, is they said, her heart is not clustering like a heart attack patient, but that's what they were treating me for, okay? So when I got to the hospital, they continued with that diagnosis. The emergency room doctor came in, a blood thinner was on its way. I had the chest x-ray. I had absolutely everything I needed to have. And he went to go look at this chest x-ray, and his intuition said, "You son of a gun," but he wasn't that nice. "If you don't check her for this other thing, you could lose her." So before I knew it, he said, "I have a hunch there's something going on here where your aorta has split apart." And he put his hands just like this, which is why I always do it when I talk about it.
Yeah.
Your aorta, first of all, comes from your aortic valve, and it's the upside down umbrella handle that goes down into your body, feeds your organ, branches off to your legs, branches to your arms and your carotids. He said, "I think you have a split going on," in so many words. Off to a CT scan I went, confirmed his suspicions. And his suspicion was something I had never heard of, aortic dissection. What? So they said, call everybody you know. And the SWAT team, my husband called it, they showed up outside my room. And they have a level 1 response team at Minneapolis Heart, Abbott. And they were prepping that room. The amounts of blood plasmas were getting up in that surgical room. All I knew at this point was they were going to fix me and I'd be right back. They didn't tell me the severity of it.
Right.
So I had that energy of they're going to fix me. As I'm singing to the surgeon, he said, "I hear you're a singer." And I said, "Well, yes, I am." And I said, "Will I be depressed after for a year? And can I have a pig valve?" And he goes, "No, and I promise to come and hear you sing after this is all done, but we got to go." And I said, "Well, you don't have to wait." And at this point, the nurse is pushing me. Her name is Tracy. And I'm singing "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" down the halls into surgery. And there are 3 of my 4 kids, my husband, my sister-in-law, my brother. And they're all crying. And I'm thinking to myself the last 60 minutes or 60 seconds, what could I do so that if this doesn't go well, they'll remember me?
Aww.
So I sang something to every one of them.
Oh.
And I told my brother, "You take care of my husband. Make him laugh, get him off his stuff, if something happens." I talked to my sister who was in Palm Springs with my mom and said, if something happens, I'm going to come back and bug you. I was getting into spirituality at this point. Well, and as it turns out, as I went into that surgical room, I said, "Are you sure I need this? I'm feeling okay now." Well, I was scared and trying to get out of it, seeing if there was another option. But the surgeon took my family to the side and said, "This isn't good. Not many people survive this. They don't get this far, let alone make it through surgery." What happened was an aneurysm was created right outside my heart. That aneurysm burst. So when you hear people say they died of an aortic aneurysm, no, the aneurysm burst.
Yeah.
So in that bursting, then the dissection happened too. So I went into 6+ hours of open heart surgery. I live with a mechanical valve, St. Jude valve. I have to live on blood thinners and a handful of medication every single day. I lost a kidney and part of it came back, so they left it in there so I didn't have to endure that stress as well. And it's really funny because this is really where we're talking God and science and the miracle of it all. You're not breathing. You're on a bypass machine. They're fixing your heart so it's not beating. It's not like my soul and spirit was going, "Well, you missed a spot." I did a little bit of traveling. And that was a really interesting thing because when I finally came out of it and they started warming up my blood and my body, we're warming her up now, that meant that I had survived the surgery.
You heard him say that?
Nope.
Oh.
That's what they told my family.
Okay.
But I mean, afterwards, I can tell you how I knew it was, I was taking a little trip because it wasn't the light that I saw.
Oh.
So at any rate, here I was, this alternative medicine woman who believed in it and probably didn't hardly take a drug, now with medication for blood thinners, for pain, for sleeping, for keeping my blood pressure down, because any sort of elevated blood pressure only puts more strain on the aorta. which is grafted to your damaged aorta. That's all so fragile. So, all I wanted to do was go home. So I talked to my Pilates girl inside of me, and I walked that hall. After a week, I said, I want to go home. I want my bed.
After a week?
After a week.
Wow.
Everybody.
And they're like, yeah, right.
No, they let me go home.
Oh.
But my sister-in-law, who's a coronary care nurse in the ICU at another hospital, said, oh my gosh, sister, you just made me freak right out. But I had great care. I mean, it was too early to go home because the medications were goofing with me. And day 10, because of my belief in alternative ways to feel better, because I was talking gibberish and hallucinating, the pain meds and the sleeping pills went in the cupboard. So I chose to work that out, as they say, took 2 showers a day and feel better. So fast forward to today, it's almost 13 years.
Yeah.
I look at the gift of what has been my life. And to be able to get back to singing again and to be able to speak and tell my story, to watch my 4 sons grow up, graduate, get married, have children, to be with my mother, my brilliant jazz pianist mother, Jeannie Arland, to play music with her and my siblings and my friends. And this amount of life I've been able to live has really been the gift back to me. As a matter of fact, about 1.5 years after my healing process, I was singing 2 church services, and there was this really interesting energy of these 2 women who were sitting in the church, and they were almost scoping me out, going, well, they said that they were new, and so I said, hey, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. And they said, oh, we know a member of your family and loved the songs you were singing. And I said, well, aren't we lucky? We all have music that follows us in good times and bad times. And this gal turned at me and said, oh no, you really live your gift. And at this point, something I haven't touched on is, in one of my many careers was talk radio on WCCO radio, and alternative medicine and spirituality were my topics, in addition to entertainment and whatever was going on in the world. But I thought to myself, this woman's name was Joy, and I never saw her again. That was an angel.
Angel.
Because people said, write a book, Patty, write a book. So I thought, oh, wow, what? I've interviewed Deepak, I've interviewed Wayne Dyer. What could I possibly have to say to people to live a more full life? Truth is, she gave me that gift that day. And that is the message and the reminder that we all have a gift. We need to remember what that gift is and live that gift. And if you've forgotten, journal, be quiet, pray about it. But remember when you were a little kid and you could envision what it was you wanted to do and be, go back to her or him. And remember, because here's what I think happens. People, their relationships at work, in their family, all improve, but mostly the relationship with yourself. Right. And when that is in place, that is intact, and you are living your gift, the joy that you can bring out to the world is tenfold. So.
Well, I always know that whenever I'm in your presence, one thing I've always first noticed and loved about you is everybody that you come across and greet, you give your 100% attention to. You say something uplifting to them, which, gosh, I just feel like, ooh, it's getting me teary-eyed. Just hearing your story and all of that, like, you are living your gift, and you're such a gift to others, because there's so many people go through life so crazy and not liking what they do, and if everybody could really take that time, would be, and even I'd love it if you'd write a book, that would walk people through how to do that, maybe even, or who knows what. Or
well, when I started that book, and then my mother, at the end of her life, I devoted my time to her, and so it got put on a shelf. And as somebody just mentioned to me, I think it was put on a shelf for a reason. It's because there's probably more to add to it, and I agree. But let me tell you, let's go back to another reason why we're here talking today, and that is that in my quest for living life holistically, but now being presented with this opportunity to live my life with Western medicine that is going to keep me alive, how do I live my life integratively? What do I do? What does that look like for Patty Peterson? How can I tell people about that? And so, even though I know what the side effects are of the medication that I must take,
Yes.
I know that the supplements that I take, who I work with my doctors and nurses with, also enhance my life immensely. It gave me the opportunity to walk my talk. Instead of just talking about this,
Right.
I'm living it.
Well, and I love, what you had shared when we were talking the other day, that your doctors want to know what you're doing because
Yeah.
they want to know what's keeping you strong, and they're open
Yes.
to that, which hopefully they'll share with other patients.
Well, I commend them too because there is such an awareness that's going on, whether we realize it or not. For example, I have an INR nurse, and those INR nurses, INR is the international ratio for how thin my blood needs to be with this mechanical valve that I live with. And the blood thinners are what create that, and that's so that no blood clot gets caught in there and I lose my life as a result of that. But they know what interacts with it, whether it's CoQ10, whether it's turmeric, but these are known things that they're studying so that they can, help to prescribe the right dosing for me depending on what I'm eating, drinking, and supplements that I am taking.
Right.
So hats off to them because they really are doing their homework here. My greatest discovery is red wine makes my blood thinner, salads make it thicker, and so do dark berries, and turmeric is a blood thinner.
Love it.
So they've changed my meds, and I have to be responsible for getting myself in once a month at the very least. And sometimes if there's a little lower or higher, I have to go every couple of weeks.
Right.
So once they change my medication. But that's my challenge. And that is not a challenge. That's actually my joy, I guess.
Proactive living. Yes.
Proactive living. Mhm.
Yeah.
Being my own advocate.
Right. Thank you.
Yes.
I know, and that's what I want so badly for more people to do. And
Yes.
I know in our last minute here, time flies so fast. I just, I know you are such a great performer, and if you have anything coming up that you want to share and would love.
Oh, I have a Barbra Streisand show at where I do a dedication to the music of Barbra Streisand, and Amy Lee and Mary Jane Ulm and Wayne Cullinan are all with me. February 7th in Dakota. And I brought my award that my family and I got, and that is for a 2019 inductee into the Minnesota Music Hall of Fame. And our whole family, along with my mother now, are all part of it, along with Bob Dylan and Judy Garland and Prince. And so other performances, you can find it at pattypeterson.com, Patty with a Y, and just go to the calendar page.
And you won the Hero Award.
Forgot about it. We haven't even talked about that.
I know.
The Hero Award for Go Red for Women and through the American Heart Association for my volunteerism. And, it's just about giving back. And when you're recognized, it's always a great pat on the back that we're hearing each other in this life.
Right.
And we can give each other accolades and pats on the back that, hey, it's working.
I know.
So,
well,
thank you.
I am just so grateful for your time and everything you shared, and you are just such an inspiration, and I hope all of you really get this and how you're going to be inspired by this interview and go follow Patty. And all of her information will be at the end as well.
That's right. Go listen to a few music clips and come out and see me because we'll have fun. I promise we're going to have fun, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy.
Blessings.
Congratulations
Thank
to you
you
and blessings to you.
Thanks.
Count your blessings.
Yes. I will.
Yeah,
I do.
right.